The Geek Girl Riot. Geek Girl Riot.
Hey, Rioters. You're back again on Geek Girl Riot, and we're happy to see you. Tonight, it is me, Sherin, and...
Julian.
And...
Tim.
Tim Gordon. Introduce yourself to the people. You've been here before, but the Rioters might not remember, so tell them who you are, or in the words of Queen Ramunda, show them who you are.
Wow. Tim Gordon. I'm just a film critic. I'm just hanging out with my friends.
You do more stuff.
I mean, I do a lot more stuff, man, but I'm just trying to just be Tim Gordon today.
All right. So today, in the very last segment, the third segment of the show, my goddaughters are supposed to show up so we can talk about Wicked. I hope that's true. But in these first two segments, Julian, Tim, and I, or is it me? Is I will be talking about. So it's Julian, Tim, and I are going to talk about awards season because we are all CCA film critics. We also, Tim leads a film critic association. We're all up in the critic mix when it comes to films. And so we'll be talking about that. But before we get into that, you guys, I had a question that I've been wanting to talk to Julian about. And I think, Tim, this is a great question for you, too. We've talked about it on another episode, but neither of you were there for that. And that is, how do you feel about this new theory or this new process that the studios are talking about introducing, where they will use superfan groups to test movies and then to actually tinker with the movies and change them around?
Julian?
I think they're struggling with how to connect the audiences and to get them back in the theaters. And while I may not agree with maybe the process, because we don't know how they're picking these so-called super fans. I guess to look at scripts and give them notes and see in progress films. I think it really depends on that, because honestly, I've known too many people who just they don't go to the movie theaters anymore. So I almost think it's a losing battle because we've already lost people. They don't want to go out there and deal with other humans and cell phones and noises and talking. They just don't want to do it, but I guess they got to try something.
Tim, what do you think?
I agree with everything that Julian just said, and I will take it one step further. As a traditionalist, I think, and let me preface this by saying I don't want to sound like what the proverbial get off my lawn do, but I'm the oldest one here, and I think that it is a horrible idea. It reminds me of several weeks ago, we were at a film festival and somebody asked about influencers coming in as opposed to critics. And to Julian's point on this matter, I believe that the studios are struggling. But if you're an artist, right, and I mean, think about this very podcast we're on right now, right? So if somebody had to if we were recording a show and then you would go, okay, well, let's have some outside super fans listen to the show and give us some critiques to figure out, how we can improve the show. I don't think that idea would fly with you. It wouldn't fly with me. It's not going to fly with most directors. I just think it's a horrible idea of how we're trying to approach and trying to get bodies in the seats or to get people interested in films. I just think that we just need to go back to really making good films, doing things that engage audiences in a way, and figure that out as opposed to coming up with all these crazy harebrained schemes that I think just undermine creatives and just kind of get in the way of the process of the art.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. And one of the things I thought about is the fact that we had script doctors, and script doctors proved to be a pretty good thing. But then they started adding more script writers and more rounds. And we found that what we were seeing was storylines, plot points were getting dropped because the original writer's intent, they never let the original writer talk to the script doctors or to the new writers. So some of the intent got lost. And the reason why certain beats were there no longer had any meaning. And they made that mistake. So then the new mistake was to let the executives get in there and tweak and mess around with it and change the recipe their way. And that didn't work. So now they're like, oh, well, now we got to go out here and get superfan groups because they've been the most vocal online, forgetting about the fact that superfan groups don't even agree with each other. The only thing that they can agree on is the fact that for some reason, Nico Parker can't play Astrid in How to Tame Your Dragon, even though she looks exactly like her. That's the basic baseline for these things. And so what I come to every time is let creators create, because when creators are allowed to do what they do best, we get properties that fans really love. Because the thing about it is that Hollywood is no longer a tastemaker. It was a tastemaker. And the tastemaking was what it excelled at. But now they're following trends because they're lost, as you said, Tim. And because they're lost, they can't catch up because they're following. And they will never catch up as long as they follow. Go back to creating. So similar to what you both said. So thank you for that. That was engaging. I've really been thinking a lot about this thing because I do think that another part of the problem is, and you guys tell me if you see this, there's a glut of stuff on the market. There's so much. We're having a hard time keeping up as critics with so much, especially if you do television and film. It's really difficult to keep up with the just huge, storm cloud of content dropping down on us all the time. And maybe that's part of the problem for the fans as well. What do you guys think?
I do think now when you talk about the fans of different genres, I think part of what we saw, and I thought about this at the very beginning of the year, because, we always work on, we'll talk about what's coming up this year. And there were, I lost count on how many sequels that were in the pipeline. I'll just rattle off a couple. You had a second Beetlejuice, a fourth Beverly Hills Cop. So it was like all these.
The top 10. The top 10 was it was crazy
with the amount of sequels that we had, and it feels to me that studios have literally, and it's not like it's a secret. They've gotten lazy because it's easier to market something that people are already familiar with, as opposed to, let's try some different stuff. And I think a lot of that is a big part of why you have, we're having this conversation right now around, the studios are looking for different ways to connect. Julian hit the nail on the head at the beginning. The pandemic really exposed something that was coming, but the pandemic kind of brought it on really, really quickly and put it in our face in a very real way, that people got accustomed for 2 years to sitting at home, and movies were streaming. They could buy the film at home. For critics, for people who did what we did, we found out that the studios had links to every movie because none of us were going to movies for 2 years. And then suddenly we got to a place where, we get in these emails, this movie is not available. We have no links for this movie. You have to come out and see it. And I'm like, do we? Do we really?
Yeah. It's funny because we'll have an email that says there are no links, and we'll have an email that has the link.
Do we? So, but then the quality of the movie, and I apologize, Julian, the quality of the movies to me this year, and I know we're going to have that conversation a little bit.
You can lead into it.
Yeah, I was telling somebody this morning, and I've been saying this for the last several months, that in the 30 plus years that I've been doing this has to be the weakest group of contenders that I've had to look at. Here we sit in the end of November, and usually I'm excited because I'm like, oh man, there's some stuff coming that's it's going to change the game. That's not really happening this year. And and I'm struggling right now. I'm honestly struggling to put 10 films together for a top 10 list. It is just an awful year. And whether it's a byproduct of the strikes, whether it's a culmination that, the quality has been going down and down over the past couple of years, maybe I'm in the minority. You guys may feel differently. I'll listen.
I don't know. I think it's a lot of competing factors. In regards to the other thing, it's just that, like, again, I don't care how good the movie is. I've talked to too many people who's like, I'm gonna wait till I come home. They don't, and this is more of a theater issue because the studios can pivot or bend the knee to Netflix, whatever they need to do to get stuff at least coming home. But getting people out to the theater, what was the last original movie that was a big hit that wasn't the sequel? People only go out for certain movies. And then leading to this year, I think the first half of the year started out pretty well. It's just then got into the weird middle part where it was just like, where's the really, really, really good thing? And for the most part, the only thing people really rocked with was Deadpool and Wolverine. And now we get to the real later part of the Oscar season period. And it's like a bunch of movies that I don't know if those were the ones that you should put at the end of the year. We were probably be talking, if Dune would have came out in the last 4 weeks, will we have the same conversation? Like if some movies that did well in like the first 3 months of the year came out in the last 3 months of the year, and some of these other movies came out earlier, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation as a weak year. If Gladiator, Wicked, Dune 2, and like something else all came out, maybe even Deadpool Wolverine a little bit later, I don't think we'd be having that conversation.
Yeah, but Julian, and I'm not being funny. You know, certain movies are made as they call prestige films. That these are the awards films, right? And then there are the films that are box office. Your Furioso, Deadpool and Wolverine. Dune is sort of the exception. Dune, you're right. And I've said that after they did the first one came out like in the first quarter a couple of years ago. And
no, it came out at the end of the year.
No, Dune, the film didn't come out at the end of the year.
Yeah, it did. Came out late 2021. Yeah.
Oh, my apologies, man. I'm sorry. See, that's selective memory again. But yeah, man.
Because I was mad. Because I was mad because it was a part one and I was tight. I will never forget that.
Yeah. Well, the thing is I kind of separate Dune from that franchise thing because at least Dune 1, of course, Dune 2 is now franchise. But in a way, it's still a second part. So it's kind of one movie. But because it's an adaptation, I think the same with Wicked. So I don't know if we can judge them by the whole franchise thing in that way.
Oh, I'm just saying it's a big movie that everyone liked. And critics loved it, audience loved it, it made lots of money.
Right.
Well, what those did, and I can't count them as franchise, is what I'm trying to say. Unlike Inside Out 2 or Deadpool, Wolverine, and some of these others. That's what I was trying to get to. But I do get what you're saying, Julian, about people not wanting to go to the theaters. Listen, you go to the theater, you get concessions, and you feel like you bought stock. It's insane. Like the prices are insane, and everything's only going up. And you feel like you get more value at home because you're not smuggling in all your chips and stuff that you bought from the CVS next door to the movie theater right before you get in. All of that, I think, does take a toll. But I do think that this swing towards superfan groups is also indicative of the way that we feel about the movies. If the movies had the same value as, let's say, a concert, would we still go? Is there something that the theaters can do to change the experience to give it more value again?
Well, you sat through it. It's called 4DX.
Yeah, Julie and I had a conversation, and we were in different. We were at 180 degrees apart because I was like, it was cool for like the first 10 minutes, man, but like really the whole movie, man, I didn't need that, man. I was good. I didn't know.
No.
I enjoyed it because I felt like I was at Universal Studios, and honestly, that probably gave Red one more star than it would have gotten because I had fun. I got punched in the kidneys. I flew. There was snow thrown in my face. I I kind of enjoy. I didn't like whatever was slithering around my ankles, though. Don't do that again. But everything else, I felt like it was a fun time, and it's not a very good movie. I mean, let's face it, Chris Evans makes everything better, so there's that. But it's not really a great movie. Also, J.K. Simmons as Buff Santa. Give me more of that. I'll take that. But yeah, it's not, that makes, I think that, and Julian and I also talked about it, it feels like a cheap way to entertain your entire family at the movies and not have to pay for the amusement park. That's how.
Pretty much. So you combine both the experiences. You get, you get the ride and a movie at the same time.
Yeah, and another one of our critic friends, Eddie, was like, if we got Screen X with 4DX, we would be in heaven. I would enjoy, especially like the big epic movies. Like you're not gonna go and see, like you want to see horror movies in this format, right? You don't want to see Oppenheimer like this and burn to a crisp. You're not looking for that.
But that's a good idea, Sherin. Oppenheimer with that explosion in 4DX.
We die. You need it to be the big, fluffy, fun movies, as Julian mentioned to me at the time. I don't want to see Challengers in 4DX.
I don't know. That joint pulse of the beat.
In the club. But I do feel like there was a value to that because it made a really mid-movie fun. And I kind of think maybe those are the things, but are there any other things? Because Tim, you didn't like 4DX. So what is your suggestion for this problem?
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna. And again, man, this is one of those situations, and I'm being very honest that I'm trying to expand my experience, right? Because sometimes I've come across as the curmudgeon because it's like, man, teens are being old and stuff. I'm just saying, and I would agree that I think it did make the Red One experience a little better. It improved the experience because you had like some extra action going on. But for me, I was just like, come on, man, I don't really need it for like the whole movie. I'm good. Like on some parts, it would have worked. But how do you improve the theater experience? Well,
okay, I'm gonna run out of time in this segment because I only got like about a minute, and I felt like you were about to get in.
Oh yeah, I was getting ready to go deep. I was about to go down the right.
I don't want you to go too far down into Wonderland, but I do want to give you time in the second segment to talk about that, and then I think I want to talk about Gladiator 2. So because we haven't talked about that, so I want to get into that. And I'm running on just about 30 minutes, 30 seconds. So I did stop you a little early, but I just feel like
I really don't have a great suggestion. I was just going to talk about the history of why these ticket prices and why these prices keep going up is because these studios are taking more and more profits out of these films, which makes the concessions pretty much the theater's only way that they can really recoup their money back. That's
okay, hold that thought. That's brilliant. This is Sherin from Geek Girl Riot with Julian and Tim, and there's more. This is Sherin and
Julian
and Tim.
And we are in a discussion about the movies. You got 3 Critics' Choice Association film critics. You got a lead of a film critic. You got a board member of a film critic association. You got members of multiple associations. And we've all been doing this for a pretty long time, although not as long as Granddaddy Tim. Yes, Tim is going to star in the remake of Cocoon. It's going to be amazing. So Tim, you left on a really great point about how the theaters need concessions to make more money, but you also were going to get into what you think theaters can do to bring people back.
Well, I think the problem, and Julian has sort of hit on it, and I talked a little bit about it earlier. It is a huge challenge right now because, again, I think before 2019 or 2020, whenever we had the pandemic, the only thing people knew was that, hey, if I have to see a movie, I got to come to this theater and watch it. We never gave people the option outside of streaming platforms who would create original movies or have movies on video on demand that they can watch those movies after they were released. But when the pandemic came and then we were all home for 24 months and then people began to become accustomed to watching movies a certain way, I think it changed the game, and I think the genie is out the bottle. And to be perfectly honest, I don't know how you put it back in there.
I don't think you can.
I don't think you can either. And I think there's still event movies that people will come and see, right? Like they'll see Wicked in the theater, or they'll see Gladiator 2, or they'll see Deadpool and Wolverine. But that experience is not for every movie. And
Well, the thing about Wicked is that they're going to release a sing-along version. They're going to give it a month. And then they're going to release a sing-along version, which capitalizes on that thing that you both know I love, which is that Rocky Horror Picture Show moment that you can have in the theater. So that's one way. But like you said, it's still big event movies.
yeah, I pretty much think that we're going to see in about 10 years less output from the studios and more focus on of kind of experience films, films that will draw people to the box office. If I was a studio, that's what I would be thinking about right now. Like not like Marvel works in that way. I know people always talk about they hate these comic or superhero films, but those things are tailor-made for what it is that we're discussing right now.
Okay, well, we've got another 15 minutes. So let's get into some of the films from this year. We're looking at award season, but I was going to do award season, but now I think I just want to do kind of some of our top picks of movies, films, with cinema from this past year. What y'all got? Like, we'll just do a round robin, one each, and just keep going till we're done. What's top on your list, Julian?
This is always hard because I don't know. I guess it'll have to be Dune too, because at least we saw it with speakers in the seats. I mean, we're foldable.
Wow. Julian is all about the experience. Julian is like, elevate what I'm feeling when I'm in this theater. And that's true because you can't get that at home, which goes back to Tim's point. Tim, what's your first pick?
Well, I'm looking at this not just as the big box office film, but like the film I think when we come into award season, I got to look at Conclave. That's kind of on the top of my list right now.
Okay, so we know that our audience knows Dune. We've talked about it extensively. Tell us some more about Conclave.
Oh, okay. Conclave is a film based in Rome about the death of the Pope and how all the cardinals come together, led by Ray Fiennes, who is in charge of putting this conclave together. And all of the political infighting. It's almost like watching like our presidential election in Rome in conclave. It's got all these twists and turns. I think it's a fantastic film. I really do.
It's making money too.
Oh yeah,
That's great. That's good to see.
that's always a good thing.
All right, so my pick, I gotta say, of course I love Dune, so there's no question with that. The movie that stands out in my mind is The Wild Robot. I loved it. And it's not just because it's an animation, it's family. It really is a well-written, well-realized, beautiful movie. So that's my pick.
Wow, that's nice.
I think Nora will do well when you get Taylor words here.
Stole my movie, man.
Pretty woman for the new generation.
So Gen Z pretty woman. And all the messing if there ain't tails.
Tell us a little bit about Honora, because I don't think they know that one yet either.
So a young Russian American dancer, stripper, for those who don't use that terminology to talk about that part of sex work, meets a young Russian, I guess, son of oligarchs, and is swept off her feet as he wishes to be with her forever as a way to spite his parents. Then things go left, very left, as they have to wander through Brighton Beach and Coney Island. And like I don't even want to. You gotta see the movie. It's hilarious and it's a drama. And a whole bunch of things is going on in that movie. A whole bunch of things is going on in that movie. A lot of Russian though. A lot of Russian.
All right, Tim, you're up.
Oh man, well since he took my Nora, I will raise you with Wicked. I did not know a thing about this story going in, And I thought that it was the best thing that I've ever seen Cynthia Erivo do. She scores.
Better than Widows?
Yes. In this film, this performance, oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
She's better than, to me, she's better than Widows. But I love this film, and I think I would add it as probably one of my top 4 movies for awards consideration. So it's a very different consideration than when we're talking about, what made the most money. I love Deadpool and Wolverine, but that movie's not going to get nominated for, it's not up for awards consideration.
Big meaty man slapping meat? No, it's not gonna. So my pick is one, I'm going to go with an art choice. It's not my favorite film, but because I'm a visual artist, my degree is actually in fine arts. I have got to show some love to Challengers for the way it was shot, for the way it was realized, for the fact that it is in essence a fable, and for the fact that Zendaya is tennis. She is tennis, and I love that idea. She's like this goddess of tennis, and it's all about the win. And I found that to be very interesting. And hopefully, this movie's going to win for like cinematography. The directing is incredible. That when we become the ball, allow me to, like Dan to Dan, become the ball. I like that. Tim is like, I don't know what that means, but all of our anime fans know that I'm talking about Okarun's missing golden balls, and that's all I can say. Tim, we'll fill you in on that later.
No, he doesn't want to know. But I guess I should pick. There's a movie that should be thought of that won't get anything because everybody should. And it's The Apprentice. The Apprentice
Too soon.
was fantastic in what it was trying to do. But this man can't even, our good old friend, the Winter Soldier, can't even do actors on Variety because everybody's so scared. Because the movie isn't a glowing thing about Donald Trump. But they should. But the movie was fire. Well, I like a Middle Eastern person look on America and American society and these figures from a different perspective than what we think about. And that's what that film does.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, Tim. Surprise.
Wow, man. I mean, y'all took all the good ones, man. The film, dang, I can't. Okay, I'll go with this one. Let's try Blitz. The new Steve.
I mean, it's good.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Do you want me to elaborate or just leave it there?
Give me a short take.
Story based in 1940 London, where the Germans are wearing out England with bombs, right? Blitzkrieg, Blitz. And in order to protect the children, they send, thousands of children away. And this story centers on this one kid who decides that he doesn't want to go away, jumps off the train, and the hellish journey that he has to endure getting back to his family, seeing things that no 9-year-old should see or experiencing things no 9-year-old should experience. I thought it was a good film. I thought it really was.
Okay, that's a good one. So now I got to come through with something. Okay, so a movie that I really loved that is not going to get much notice. It's a Black woman director. It speaks to Chicago. It speaks to coming of age. Is a tiny little film called We Grown Now, about 2 little boys and their friendship, really their brotherhood, and how they are not torn but thrown apart. It's a really introspective, lovely movie. It's like I call it an epigraph from childhood because y'all know me and words. And that's how I feel about it. So I really think it's a lovely movie to watch. I don't think that it's going to get recognized, but that's why I want to do that here.
Okay.
Wow. Good job. Julian?
Are we going to do one more? We're going to do one more?
Yeah, there's a couple that we haven't touched on. Like and I do want to ask y'all. I know you haven't, Julian. Tim, have you seen Nosferatu yet?
I have not.
So none of us have seen that yet. So that's going to be interesting. Okay, I'm sorry, Julian. I just wanted.
No, you're okay. I'm not the biggest Robert Eggers guy, so we're gonna see if I'm gonna like it anyway. You know, in terms of big movies, this probably won't get no love neither. It's gonna be Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Because me and my apes can't trust these humans. You can't trust these human beings.
You love
Matt Reeves terrible. You can't trust these human beings. Can't trust them. They're gonna blow up the earth.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm surprised that you didn't mention Night Bitch.
See, oh God, okay, never mind.
No, go ahead, Tim. What was yours?
I mean, nobody's talked about this one, and I think there's a reason because they force fed it to us was Amelia Perez, which is
No, a lot of the women critics that I've spoken to actually loved Amelia Perez. Finish it.
I live in a household and know a bunch of people who hate musicals, and I've been hearing this over and over for Wicked. Amelia Perez is another movie that came out that has music in it, and I'm trying to expand the base of people who are around me to check out music. Amelia Perez, honestly, is a film that I believe if you took the music out and it was just a straight crime drama, I still think it's as effective without them.
It's not a crime drama.
Well, I mean, that's how they describe it. As a crime drama.
Because they can't hit you with the reveal. They can't spoil it for you.
Well, no, they already spoiled it for you at the beginning. I mean, I think that's the problem I have with the film, and I talked about this on my show, is if they would have hidden that fact, I think Carla Sofia Gascon could have walked straight off the set and into wherever they're giving out the Oscars and just gotten an Oscar if they didn't tell people in advance what it was about.
Fair. Although everything has been really favorable for her to at least get a nod for her performance.
The biggest problem with me is that she's not the lead. This is Zoe Saldana's movie.
Well, we're going to see.
They can campaign for all they want. I saw the movie. I know what the main character of the movie is. The story is.
I mean, listen. I love Jamie. I love Jamie Lee Curtis. Love her. But there was no way she was best supporting actress in.
Was it?
She wasn't even on she wasn't even on screen enough. It was Stephanie Hsu, period.
Yeah.
Everything everywhere all at once. That was Stephanie Hsu's award. Jamie Lee Curtis was barely more than a cameo, and I think that was robbing. So we could see anything. And I love Jamie Lee Curtis. Please don't fight me. I love her. I'm just saying the actual factuals are there. Okay, so I'm supposed to pick another movie.
You want? So.
I mean, yeah, I can do what I want, but let's complete this circuit. Let me think of another movie that really said something to me. I mean, there's a few documentaries. Like I'll tell you, I loved the Martha documentary. Like I loved it. I was enthralled. Like I was like, oh my gosh, the feds sent Martha to jail on some bullshit. That's how I came out of that movie. And so I think that speaks well for it. But if I have to make a pick, like on the art of the whole thing, Sing Sing. I think Sing Sing deserves a lot more notice than it's getting. It is, it's just a wholly satisfying movie, and there's some visual symbolism in there that I think works really well. So that's our speed rounds, which weren't that speedy. We've got about 2 minutes and 22 seconds left on this second segment of Geek Girl Riot. Anybody got anything they want to say about any movie, anything you're looking forward to coming up? Any thoughts about the Academy? What you got? Anybody? Julian, you usually have a good thought. Oh, Tim, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I went out to the junket, the Nickel Boys, in a couple of weeks ago, and I believe that it is a film that after spending the weekend and meeting the director and talking with him, I sort of get it. But I think it is going to be a hard sell because at 2 hours and 20 minutes, It's filmed in a very so for audience members who don't know what it is, it's pretty much the story of the friendship of two boys who are in a hellacious reformatory school, the Doja School, based in Florida. You know, a true story. Where
There were more than one of them, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, where they're being physically, sexually abused, and in some cases murdered and buried on property. And it is such a hard, dark story that is told in a very artistic, unconventional style that I think 95% of people who watch it the first time not only will not get it, but will be bored to tears. But it's just a very weird concept, and I understand why it's made the way it's made. But
Is it first person POV? Like you're like,
But it's not that weird. Anybody who's played Call of Duty the last 20 years, won't even feel weird for it. And there's millions of those people.
Julian, but I'm saying the average.
I mean, average. I'm saying, like,
30-second countdown.
Go ahead, Julian.
no, I'm just saying that's not weird. It's just sad. It's a sad movie.
It's sad. And there are other things. Sleepers deals with something very similar, and Tanana Redo. This book is, of course, by Colson Whitehead that it's based on, Nickel Boys, but there's also a book by Tanana Redo called The Reformatory, for which Stephen King said is incredible because Tanana Reeve always goes to the supernatural side of things. And that's it. That's our 2 segments. Thank you so much, Tim, for dropping by. We will tell y'all where to find him in the write-up, and Julian, as always. Hey guys, you're back on the 3rd segment of Geek Girl Riot. We're so glad you're here because it's time to get wicked. I am Sherin, and that is
Erika.
And Anna.
And that is my sister friend, Erika, and my goddaughter, Anna. And they are joining me because we went to an early screening of Wicked. We were all dressed up. I had green lips and fuchsia and green. And Anna was fully dressed up as Glinda or Galinda, depending on how you feel about it. And Erika's just cute all the time. So the first thing... So we've got some history with Wicked to get through first. First of all, it comes from the original book by Gregory Maguire. He wrote that book in, I believe, 1995, believe it or not. And it's caused a huge sensation. 3 other books followed, but he re-envisioned the life of the Wicked Witch of the West, Elphaba, or as people who read the book called her, Elphaba, before we realized her name is basically L. Frank Baum, which is the person who wrote The Wizard of Oz. So there's some little trivia for you. And then Stephen Schwartz and Winnie Holzman in 2003 released their amazing musical version of the book. And they didn't introduce us to Indina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth, but they made them legend. Would y'all agree?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Definitely.
Okay. So, and of course, now we have this new musical starring Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba and Ariana Grande, who used her actual father's last name, which I think is Butera, Ariana Grande Butera as Glinda. And we have our beloved Jonathan Bailey, who is also better known as Anthony Bridgerton as Fiyero. We have our beloved Michelle Yeoh as Madame Morrible. And we have our also beloved, this is weird, that's a lot of love. But we also have Jeff Goldblum as the wizard, and it is directed by John M. Chu, who also directed Crazy Rich Asians. So that's all of the front loading. I got it all in. And so now I want to ask you guys each, Anna, what was your first introduction to Wicked?
I was first introduced to Wicked recently when me and my dad and sister went to see it in New York on Broadway. And it was a really good play. And actually it's my favorite play at the moment because it was just really amazing. And the story was very thought out and it was just really well planned. There were some little things that didn't match up with the Wizard of Oz movie, but overall it was really great.
Okay. What about you, Erika?
To me, the Wicked was in the old Wizard of Oz. And then I did read the book years ago when it first came out. And I've been waiting patiently and was so excited that the movie was coming out. So I just watched the movie last week. So that was the dream come true to actually see what was done, and it was beautifully done.
Yes, we saw it in IMAX in a theater full of, it had to be 3,000 people. That's what I'm telling everybody. It was like wall to wall
Amazing.
people. And a huge screen, and the sound was great because I know, Anna, you've been to screenings where the sound wasn't great.
Yeah.
Great sound. And we also found out that Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande actually sang all of their performances live, which is something that goes back to Barbara Streisand. She used to do that for the best, like, of the moment acting performance, and they did the same. And I think it worked well for them. Well, let's ask you guys, what did you guys think about the performances?
I think that I first of all, I would like to say that I'm very glad that they didn't add any original songs, because I know they do that a lot when they do movie adaptations. And usually it's hard for them to make a really good.
Okay.
Yeah, they have great songs, and they nailed most of the numbers. I think I just had a main problem with Dancing Through Life, but it was a small price to pay, I think.
What was your problem with Dancing Through Life? Performed by Jonathan Bailey in the library.
Right. I think there are a couple issues. Because I know in the musical, it's like Fiero's big number, like he's introduced and he's super selfish and careless, and he just doesn't, like, it doesn't matter what happens to him because he just doesn't care, like, at all. But in the movie, he spends like the entire song is just him like dancing with other people and being very careful about like how he does the choreography to make it look interesting. And I feel like it gave off more like, oh, I have to do this right. Like I have to play this part well, which more so than it did just Fiero talking about being careless. And I think that made it slightly worse than I think it could have been a bit better.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I did notice that I thought there was too much going on in that scene as well. There's like a rotating circular bookshelf, like they're in deep space. I didn't need all the acrobatics there.
It's also like dancing through life, not spinning. I feel like they weren't really dancing. And when they were, like, I feel like their dancing was the choreography when they were like in the Ozdas was really different because it didn't feel like a party. It just, the entire number felt very scripted because their dances were like, they were like stomping and doing stuff like on the beat of the song instead of just dancing like as if you're at a party.
Okay.
As they were more dancing as like a really big group instead of in pairs, which is how it was in the musical. So I think it was just very different.
Yeah, I can see that. I definitely see what you mean. So, Erika, how about, well, actually, Anna, before we go to your mom, what was your favorite so we can have a counterbalance to the one you thought failed?
I really liked how they did No One Mourns the Wicked. That was a really cool number. I like how they incorporated like the townspeople and the posters of the Wicked Witch of the West and that kind of stuff. But I also really liked how they did What Is This Feeling? So I think that was really cool. That was a really cool number.
Yeah, that one worked out really well where they realized that they can't stand one another. Alpha Beta. Okay, Erika, give me your thoughts on performances.
I think there is a big disparity if you have seen the Broadway show at Wicked, and if you haven't and you just go to the theater, you're going to feel just like me. You're going to love it. I think, right? I think it's like there was the element of surprise. Like if you haven't seen the play, you're just curious to see like how are they gonna develop that? Like who is the Wicked gonna be? The way the Glinda comes is so different from the book, right? Everything is very different. I think I was very curious to see, and it just like it was a new discovering. Like everything was very fresh and new. So I liked a lot. I was very surprised when I watched. I hadn't read much about it, so I didn't know how like everything was actually being like the scene, the song, everything was like live, right? So it just had this like there was something special about it that I couldn't really put my finger on it. But I think it was really great. It just made that little tad more emotional I felt very connected. I don't have the same. I'm not a very critical anyway on the movies, but I think for the element of like the surprise and for the feeling, I think I was more attached to that. Like, what are you going to bring to the story that make me connected to it? And so I had a different type of view, I guess you can say, to what I expected from the movie.
So what was your favorite part? What was the moment that you just loved?
I loved like at the without like spoilers, like the when Elphaba arrives at the party with the weird hat and then there is all this mockery and she's trying to just be strong and own it to it. So she wouldn't actually be just only to be like, I'm strange and this is what I am. And I love when Glinda actually has a touch in her heart and she just goes to her. I think that was the most beautiful scene. It was really, really when they sealed that friendship and she figured out that actually she didn't hate her. She actually loved her and she had kindness in her heart for that. I think it was one of my favorite moments.
Yeah, that was a beautiful moment. And I think we should tell everybody, our rioters, that's what we call our audience, that this is Wicked Part 1, meaning it is the first half of the musical, or as we say in the theater, Act 1. You're going to get Act 2 exactly a year from now when the holidays roll back around again. So you should know that. Also, we should let you know that if you are lovers of musicals and when you see the movie, you're sitting there trying not to sing, don't worry. In a month, there will be sing-along versions of the film in theaters right in time for Christmas so that you can belt the songs out. And trust us, we will be right there with you because I like singing popular at the top of my lungs because I cannot sing Defying Gravity. So I do what I can. But I felt like they did an amazing job with it. You know, John M. Chu, the director, talked about talking to Steven Schwartz, who wrote the music, and Winnie Holtzman, who wrote the libretto or the book, about things that they wish they could have done. And he wanted to add those things in. And what is really great about it, and I was telling Anna about this, is that they used a lot of practical effects in this. Like, for example, they planted 9 million tulips and waited for them to bloom so that we could get that beautiful scene of them running through the rows of tulips, which I just, I love. They made that big green train to Oz. It was a working train. That's incredible. And you see, like, when Fiero and Elphaba are walking through the woods, these flowers are opening, and that's all practical effects. And I think being able to actually see that it's real, it does something for you. And I was saying that Agatha all along, our other big witch moment of this season, also used mostly practical effects. Cynthia Erivo did her own stunts, and you can see that it makes it feel more real and grounded, along with all of the emotion that was brought into it. This was the first time that Nessa Rose is played by a person who is actually a wheelchair user. On Broadway, it was always an actor performing disability rather than somebody who is truly disabled. So that's incredible. It just kind of made me happy. It made me feel good, and as the musical always does. And for those of you who are wondering if the big riff in Defying Gravity happens, it happens. It is done, and then it is doubled, and it's a pretty special moment. Other than that, I think what I loved most was just the production design of it and that the cast had such good chemistry. Those were my big moments for me. Okay. What else did you guys love or not like or look forward to, or what do you want to see next, or tell me all of the things? What's on your mind, Erika?
I think it was magical. Like it was really fun. It was almost like I remember when we first I saw Frozen with the girls, that there was like this magic
It was
feeling.
4 of us. Yeah, it was all 4 of us in Frozen.
Right? It was so magical because we didn't know what to expect and we were just like blown away. And I think it was the same thing to me with the Wicked. Like it was a gorgeous scenario and everything was so like realistic, right? As if it's real. You could actually grab it. I think it just left me like hunger for more. It was beautifully done. I caught myself the whole time just trying to see like, wow, she's actually really green. I could not. And
Sprinkles and all. Yeah, the makeup is amazing. Even her Sergey show, right? Even her scalp was green. It was great. So, Anna, what are you looking forward to next? And then I have a heavy question for us to close out on. But tell me what you're looking forward to next.
Well, I am looking forward to seeing how they decide to like do acts 2, because I know that like when I watched the movie and versus when I watched like the play, it's very different, but in a good way. Like I think they took a lot of the best aspects from the musical and like characters like personality traits and their how they like what's it called? Their habits. And they put those in, and they also did like
and everything.
and they also did like also certain parts of the setting that were like really important. But they also changed everything about it in a way that it was still the same. I don't really know how to describe it.
I know what you mean. They added.
It was very cool. They added and more remakes, and it's just so much better. It was just very so much better than I'd expected it to be. And so I'm really excited for how they decide to do acts 2, because that's when things start to get like really dramatic. And I want to see how they decide to play that out.
Yeah, that's a good point. I do too. So, and then we get to hear no good deeds, which
Right.
So my last question for y'all is a tougher one, and we only have about 2 minutes left. But I want to ask you, because I saw somebody write this today, and it's really struck me. We're all women of color. And somebody said that women of color have a special connection to Elphaba because she's the green girl, because she gets blamed more than the other girls, because people have different expectations from her. Do you guys feel that?
that is a really good question. I think it's like throughout now that I heard you saying that, I think that will, I can see how that's going to reflect in a lot of people, because there are so many struggles that you go through, and how you see how she's like, there is a prejudgment of who she is because of the color of her skin. And then in the end, you see like, oh my gosh, she's so good. That's like, why are people treating her like that, right? And it just showed the greatness of her character, her heart throughout the whole scene. But the whole time she's just judged. I can see that similarity, and I think it's gonna be something that we'll see people standing up and kind of having this feeling that they can empathize. Yeah,
Okay.
I
What
agree.
about you?
I agree that it does, you can see where they got like those ideas from, because it is something that happens a lot, that it's like she is getting judged just because of how she looks, like from first glance. And what I think is really interesting is that in the musical and in the play, once she starts doing these incredible things, people start being like, oh, maybe she is good. And then they start being like, oh, she's a great person. And as soon as the wizard or Madame Morrible, I forgot which one it is, says that she's evil, they all turn on her again, and they start blaming it on like, she's green, she's terrible, like this is why she's terrible. Which it's like it really shows it really reflects how people act in a society and like who they are, which is really interesting.
All right. Yes, that is all true. And, we're out of time. It goes so fast. I want to thank you guys. This has been Sherin, and that is
Erika, thank you for having me.
And Anna, thank you.
And we want you to see Wicked, like right now. Go now.
Yeah.
Don't wait.
Please go. You will love it.
It's great.